Meet the Press over the weekend. Utah Governor Spencer Cox discussed the state's new social media laws for minors and potential challenges regarding enforcement in an exclusive interview with Meet the Press. So, in case you don't know, Utah is going to do an age restriction on social media. So you have to be 18 or have your parents' permission to use any sort of social media.
I'm Nick Kayal, and I approve that message.
You think an age restriction is going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I want TikTok out of the country, period. So yeah.
It's not just TikTok; it's social media.
Yes.
It's all of social media.
Like I said it's probably a month ago, I said you get your social media license when you get your driver's license.
All right. Well, that's the reason I'm bringing this to the cut sheet, because I know we all have differing opinions on this.
Right.
This is Utah Governor Spencer Cox.
And enforcement seems also to be a huge task here. Which department in the state is going to be monitoring these social media companies, and are you going to have to essentially hire more people to do this?
So the Department of Commerce will be handling this, and we understand that there are definitely going to be enforcement issues. Anytime you wade into this type of an industry, it's going to be tough, and we don't expect that we're going to be able to prevent every young person from getting around this. Kids are really smart. That's one of the problems. But here's what I would prefer, Chuck. Obviously, I would prefer that Congress act. That's where this should happen, and I think it will. It's amazing to me. We have very conservative members of Congress. Congressman Chris Stewart is running a bill right now. Broad bipartisan support. The president in his State of the Union said we need to do this. And so I have President Biden, I have very conservative members of Congress working on this together. But the states have to lead out, and that's what we're doing. And I expect other states to follow, as you mentioned. And then that helps Congress kind of coalesce and come to an agreement on how we prevent these terrible harms from happening.
Did you work with the social media companies and say, what would it take for them to do real age verification? Because let's be frank, it's illegal for people underage to look at pornographic material or have access to it.
That's a good point.
It's been impossible to keep that off the internet and keep kids from being able to look at it. Why do you think your law is going to be able to work?
Kids, don't look at that porn on the internet. Yes, Mom. Yes, Dad, I won't.
Turn that smut off.
Yeah.
Well, we think we don't think it's going to be foolproof. There's no question about that. But we are working with social media companies. Again, over the course of the year, we will be going through a rule-making process to figure out what that's going to look like. Again, how do we protect data privacy? I suspect as we look at this that there will be third-party age verification companies that we will utilize to make this happen. We also we've seen the leaks that have happened with some of these social media companies. We don't want them having copies of driver's licenses on hand. That's not what we're trying to do here. We believe that there are technological fixes that we can work around this, and that's what we'll be working on over the course of the next year.
It's funny they took my driver's license thought there towards the end. Look, and I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek when I say, when you get your driver's license, you get your social media license, and I know the whole age verification thing can be installed, and you're never going to safeguard it completely. It's never going to be foolproof. But just think about all the crap that you see on social media. I mean, number one, the obsession with selfies totally creates a narcissistic society where you're always looking back at the funhouse mirror and looking at the reflection of yourself. And then I've seen a lot of these, too, these fight videos in schools where now instead of like stopping it or breaking it up, we record and post like we're a video editor. And I'm not saying that you really should be banned from social media until you're 16, but I just feel like there's
18.
a lot or 18. I just feel like there's a lot of parents that either don't have the time or they just don't care enough to monitor what their children are doing. So, I mean, I don't know what the right safeguard is. If there's maybe like a time limit per day you can put on the phone and it can only be adjusted by the parent's account with a passcode or what you got to do. But these kids that spend their entire day just swiping and scrolling, I think it's seriously stunning their development.
But my question is, let's say you have a 16 or 17-year-old and you are at an event and you tell them they can have a sip of your beer or have a sip of your wine to taste that, right? People will do that at a family celebration depending on your culture, etc. So are the parents allowed? Is it up to the parent who is the legal guardian to give that permission? If I'm the social media company, I would actually demand that so that then when they come and say, well, you cause self-harm, this and that, say, well, we only cater to adults. If you put your child on here, it's the law that you signed off on it.
Okay.
It's
So
on you.
It kind of mitigates the responsibility of the social media company because the parent signed off on it, is what you're saying?
I think from a legal standpoint, it would, because they could say we are an adult platform, and it's up to you, the caregiver or the legal guardian. So if you put your kids on there, that's on you, not on me.
I mean, and I'm not saying that there's not benefits to social media. There's, it's a quick, convenient way to get your news as opposed to going to the website of the outlet that maybe you're clicking on or following the tweets of. Like, instead of me pulling up my laptop and going to foxnews.com, I can just see it on my Twitter feed on my phone. It's quick.
Don't be so dismissive of that, because that's the problem. And I'm not trying to get up on a soapbox here, but we don't read stories. We read 2 sentences on Twitter and think we know what the story is because of somebody picks and chooses what they put on social media. So like reading the entire story as opposed to getting all your news from Twitter is actually a benefit.
But if and not to go down like a deep like in the weeds with the way the media like gives you information these days, so many of them are taking stories from one source. And I don't know if this word will even resonate with people, but like they re-aggregate it. So like when I'm reading a story from the NewYorkPost.com or FoxNews.com, most of the time it's a report from another network that had the report.
It's true.
Right?
You read something.
Reuters.
You read something from Reuters that the New York Post reposted. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So, I mean, Dawn, you've been in the news media for a long time, and I think you've certainly seen the way the industry has evolved, where it's kind of like this repopulating of another source's content under, and they have people in their news departments that'll add a little context to it or maybe an opinion, but it's coming from somebody else.
Well, and to your point, it's often coming from that one source. The more credible individuals will state where they got it. So there might be a story, and people think, oh, it's widely reported. But in truth, it's coming from that one source.
Correct.
And so it gives people a wrongful impression that everybody has confirmed this.
Yeah. I mean, like when I read something from Fox News, sometimes it's from, courtesy of the New York Post or Reuters. Sometimes, like I'll say it's from Fox News Digital, so it's one of their own stories, their own reports, or their own sources. But we live in this world of, everybody re-sharing, and that's what social media does. How many conservative accounts or Republican commentators do you follow on Twitter that when Kamala Harris has one of her word salads, the 17 conservatives you follow on social media within 20 minutes, they've all posted the same video, reshared and populated from whoever posted the video first.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of where we are in the news cycle these days.
Yeah, and it's entertainment. People now find that all of this is fodder, and on Twitter it becomes entertainment. But the problem is, to your point, many people, they just think it's the truth.
Yeah, and to kind of go back to the original point with these, politicians and having age restrictions for children, I feel like now think about this. We're in I guess we live in the social media era these days. Like, it's no longer the internet, it's social media. Like, the internet was the late 90s, Y2K, early 2000s. But ever since, and it probably started with MySpace, but I think it really took off with Facebook, social media went from the original MO and the mission statement was, so you can connect with people that you don't see anymore. Maybe that high school buddy that relocated, or, the grandma can see the picture of the little baby and all this. But now it's become this microphone to share opinions. It's not about connecting with individuals.
It's true. It's amplified. And then now the feature that you can decipher all different languages.
Yep.
So that is fascinating. And that becomes then, does that bring forth, on a good point, does it bring forth democracy or goodwill across the world? But very bad things can happen too.
Yep.
AOC ripped TikTok.
Shocking.
Actually, no, she didn't.
No?
We're going to agree with AOC on this. Actually.
Uh-oh.
See what I did there?
Wow.
See what I did there? Now you're all paying attention.
We're going to agree?
She went on TikTok defending, how can I say this better? She went on TikTok saying that we should not ban TikTok.
She went on TikTok to say we should not ban it.
Exactly. Got it?
Well, then I disagree with her, but yes, let's hear her.
You disagree with her? All right.
But I would agree.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Rep AOC,
Rep.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and this is my first TikTok. Now,
First?
this is not only my first.
It's her first.
Where
So
have
we're
we
listening
been-
to her first.
Well, where have we been getting her other rants from?
Instagram and Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the hostage video was via Instagram.
I believe the hostage video was via Instagram
Okay.
with Riley.
I thought it was
her
TikTok.
Husband
Okay.
or soon-to-be husband.
This is not only my first TikTok, but it is a TikTok about TikTok. Now, this week, the CEO of TikTok came and testified before Congress as there is growing rumblings and discussion over a nationwide ban on the app. Do I believe TikTok should be banned? No. Why should TikTok not be banned? First of all, I think it's important to discuss how unprecedented of a move this would be. The United States has never before banned a social media company from existence, from operating in our borders.
Okay.
And this is an app that has over 150 million Americans on it. Some of the arguments about banning TikTok have come in with respect to discussions around Chinese surveillance and utilization of data that is tracked and the enormous amount of tracking on U.S. citizens and data that is harvested by TikTok.
Okay, so a couple of things.
And they say because of
There's more.
Sorry, no.
I thought we were done. Okay,
Go ahead.
so this goes back to what I said a couple of minutes ago, where I said, isn't it funny how the left wants to ban everything? They want to ban Fox News, they want to ban conservative talk radio, but then you have AOC who is totally fine with TikTok. And so, and then she sits there in the beginning of that clip, or maybe midway through that clip, talking about government stepping in and shutting down. Can we hear that little portion in the middle again?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to.
distance from operating in our borders. And this is an app that has over 150 million Americans on it. Some of the arguments about banning TikTok have come in with respect to discussions around Chinese surveillance and
Is that the part you're talking about?
utilization
No,
of-
go back further. But Chinese surveillance is the reason why I want to ban it.
As there is growing rumblings and discussion over a nationwide ban on the app. Do I believe TikTok should be banned? No.
Stop it. Stop it right there. So she does not think TikTok should be banned. But did she speak up and voice out her opinion in regards to conservatives being banned on Twitter pre-Elon Musk? Because she sounds like she's against the ban. But she's, she was very adamant in 2021 and 22 about misinformation and disinformation from conservatives on social media.
Well, to that point, she believes, if I'm in AOC's mind, she believes
scary
that
place to be.
TikTok shouldn't be banned. But if you post what she claims disinformation on TikTok, then you should be banned.
So if I like it, it's okay. If I disagree with it, it's got to go.
No, it's a very good point you're making, that she's very inconsistent on this, because she's basically saying that if I like your TikTok video, you should be allowed on TikTok. If I don't, then you shouldn't be allowed on TikTok. Am I missing something?
No.
Okay.
I think she's going to her constituency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is, she knows that her constituency is on here. She can grow it. She knows more than probably, the majority of her fellow members of Congress that she can work this. And so a piece of this, even though I agree with her, I probably disagree on why.
Okay.
And on to Nick's point is that she's very inconsistent with this, because, like you said, she doesn't speak up when people are being shadow banned or banned from Twitter or whatever that she doesn't agree with.
Governor Murphy's dolphin checks in and says,
Oh, gee.
This is unbelievable. I love Twitter. See, this is another reason why Twitter doesn't need to go. The handles alone are entertainment. He says, we should know by now that any government intervention in social media will only make it worse.
Agreed.
And generally, I agree.
Agreed.
But the only reason I want TikTok banned is because what China and the Communist Party is doing from an intelligence and surveillance gathering standpoint. We already know they'll fly balloons over us.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they can... They're already collecting our information. So
we should just give up and say, I have whatever you want.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that if you are concerned about that, then don't go on TikTok.
Well, but here's the thing. So, and now, granted, I don't know the difference between TikTok and Instagram. I thought all those AOC hostage videos were courtesy of TikTok. Apparently, they're from Instagram. So if TikTok's gone, can't you just go to Instagram and do the same thing anyway without the Chinese surveillance?
Yes.
Is it going to be that really difficult in your life?
Yes.
You know, for all the people that are giving me crap about I can't get off of Twitter, I'm trying to tell people to get off of TikTok, and they're pushing back. Unbelievable.
Holy crap! I'm just saying that bans never work. They never work, and you know, I always go back to the music because you know that's my
wheelhouse.
That's my wheelhouse. But you know, when the government decided to put parental advisory stickers on CDs and records that they thought were explicit, it made me just want to buy them more. And I would find a friend who was 18 or find a record store that didn't card and buy them myself.
Hey, Jay, you want to go to the wall and pick up some CDs that my parents won't let me have?
Exactly. Because you want stuff that you can't have more.
Yes. Swami Mommy says, my daughter's youth group gave up social media on their phones for Lent. The initial withdrawal was brief, but she has been less stressed and much happier as she's more involved in face-to-face contact with her actual friends, which that to me is the big thing. The amount of grown adults, and I'm just going to say 18 and above, because when you're 18, you're technically an adult, that are so used to social media and texting and all these, you know, young little whippersnappers out there with their abbreviated text messages that you need the Da Vinci Code to decipher what the hell they're trying to say. They can't communicate in person. They can't look you in the eye. They get very uncomfortable.
I'm not arguing that social media is not awful for us as a society. It 100% is. And as soon as I get out of this job, as soon as they fire me next week, I am going to delete every single one of my social media apps. However, that is not the point. We as adults, and we should be able to parent our children, but we should know what the risks and harms are and make a decision as adults about us, about our children, if we want them on there. If you want your kids on there, great.
Yeah.
That's up to you. We can't have the government deciding which social media apps are quote-unquote good for us and which social media apps are quote-unquote not good for us.
But if the government says it's a national security threat, since everybody loves to say everything's a national security threat these days,
that's a great point.
Then they jump in, and it's like, yeah, look, you're going to have to go. There's 12 other ones. You'll get your fix elsewhere. But like, I will before I came back up here and separated from the wife for 7 months, when we would go out in public, whether it's at a restaurant or to any retail place where customer service is expected, I would sit there and and I'm like a magnet for this. I always get the worst employee at every place I go to. And the service is terrible. They don't communicate. They don't look you in the eye. And when they leave, I go, I guarantee you that's another one of these zombies that spends his whole day in his phone. And the smartphone made him stupid. And my wife's like, no, did you ever think that there's just type A and type B personalities and you're just a very intense, direct individual? I'm like, yes, I am. But like, you know, there was a time when social media didn't exist. Did these people used to converse the old-fashioned way before that? Or have they always been like recluses? I don't know.
Recluses or recluse?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Twitter will check.
No, this is an interesting. Is it recluse?
I think it's
somebody is a recluse or
social recluse.
Social. So if you're saying it about a group of people, they're a bunch of recluses or Dawn.
I don't know.
I thought it was recluse.
Okay.
I'm going to find the internet to check.
That's the spider.
Yeah, I don't really care.
But to your point with the media, one more. We got one other tweet. Lori checks in.
Yeah.
She says, my husband's sister only knows what she sees on mainstream media and hears at her woke job. She is clueless. She thinks Ron DeSantis and George Santos are the same person. So it's possible that your wife knows nothing about politics. How could you confuse George Santos and Ron DeSantis?
Dude, we are again. I'm going to say this,
right.
And I know
we're knee deep in it.
I know Dawn didn't like when I say this, but we are all in bubbles.
True.
Because we eat, sleep, and breathe what we do here.
Yeah.
Not everybody. Actually, the majority of people don't. So to say, how can you not know the difference? There's a lot of people. I mean, like, we
That's
can
a fair
do
point.
we can do a man on the street and go outside and ask people who the vice president is, and I bet you a lot of people don't know. I bet you a lot of people don't know.
We should start doing that more often.
I agree.
I like that man on the street idea.
I agree.
Just to see what people are doing, and if anything, it'll be a funny bit we could play back on the air.
It's a staffing issue, though, because, Anthony is here to
Right.
work with Dawn. Daniel's here for the video.
All right, I'll take a 50% pay cut. You can add 2 more staff members. How's that sound?
All right, let's go to Donald Trump. He was at a rally in Waco, Texas. By the way, maybe you shouldn't have gone to Waco, Texas. Just saying.
Oh, that's right.
Branch Davidians.
Yeah, David Koresh. I'm just saying it's probably not the best because, as you just mentioned, Dawn, the mainstream media had a field day with this over the weekend. Like the Waco and Waco. I mean, it's a whole thing. Anyway, he was in Waco, Texas, to a very, very large crowd.
Yep, pretty good.
And he started to riff on Ron DeSantis. And usually in these Trump rallies, you have a lot of people going, yeah, and screaming and hooting and hollering. He's trashing DeSantis in this, and the crowd is eerily silent. But you be the judge.
But I'm a loyalist, and when a man comes to me, tears in his eyes, he's at almost nothing in the polls. And he's fighting somebody that's at 42, and he's got almost $30 million in the bank. He's at almost nothing. He's got no cash. And I said, I can't give you an endorsement. There's no way you can win. You're dead. But he fought a little bit, like 150. He was certainly no Jim Jordan, that I can tell you. He fought a little bit, just a little bit, on impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, meaning on television, because I didn't know him very well. But I saw him, so he came and he really wanted. I said, you can't win, can you? How do you can win? Sir, if you endorse me, I'll win. Please. Please, sir, endorse me. And I said, all right, let's give it a shot, because honestly, the Secretary of Agriculture, Adam Putnam, good man, but I never met him. I didn't know him. So I don't feel guilty about it. If you don't know somebody. I wish I knew him, actually. You want to know the truth, I wouldn't have done this. So what happened is, I said, let's give it a shot, Ron. And I endorsed him, and he became like a rocket ship. Within one day, the race was over. He got the nomination. Then he had to run against a man that was the hottest in all of politics.
All right, let me just stop it right here.
Okay.
Dawn, Nick. Do we think that this is going over like a lead balloon in the crowd?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're even following what he's referencing until he mentions DeSantis by his first name, Ron. Because it is a slow build-up.
It is.
And I do find it a little bit humorous. This is the first time I'm hearing it. But I don't know, maybe people in Waco, Texas have the IQ of a mushroom. I don't know what they're not picking up on, but it is missing the point, though.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of jokes that miss the point.
No, but at this point, though, the crowd, he's telling a story.
Yeah.
So at this point, if there's a build-up, to Nick's point, you could see there's a build-up. They're listening to a story.
Okay, so there's nothing. So your point is there's nothing for them to react to yet.
Right. And
Okay.
I'm agreeing with Nick. Yeah.
Okay. We continue.
He was the hottest person. Remember, it was him and Stacey Abrams, the 2 hottest people in the Democrat Party. So we laugh at him now, but at the time, he was one of the hottest people in politics, Matt, right?
Just pause it right there.
From-
Just a quick commentary. This will be the only time you hear Stacey Abrams and hottest people in the same sentence ever again. But continue.
That's very familiar with. Now, he turned out to be a crackhead.
From
But I
Kensington.
did rallies for Ron that were massive rallies, and they were very successful. So we got him the nomination. We then got him the election. He said, I don't think I can make it, because the other guy was really popular, believe it or not. He was going to be the next president of the United States. But that didn't work out too well. They caught him in a crack den.
Was that Dawn? Was that Andrew Gillum he's talking about?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Did he say Gillum or Putnam?
I don't. I believe he's talking about
Okay.
Andrew Gillum. I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
Of course, anything goes in politics today. He can maybe he's going to make a comeback. Who knows? But think how bad Florida would be. Remember one thing. Florida has been tremendously successful long before this guy became governor. Florida was tremendously successful under Rick Scott. He was, look, whether you like him or not, Charlie Crist, it was very successful. He was a Republican at the time. But Florida's been successful for decades. In fact, probably as or more successful than it is now. But when a man...
So no real reaction yet from this.
And I'll give Trump some credit here because I think he's spot on, and I think DeSantis gets too much credit for this when really he shouldn't. Now, granted, he's done a good job, but this notion that Florida just became this unbelievable place to relocate to in the last 3 years is total nonsense. Like, people have been going to Florida for the weather, the lower taxes, the Republicans for 15 years now?
True, but I think we saw it. I think we saw it double or go up a lot during COVID.
But
am I wrong?
But how much of that is DeSantis, and how much of that is I just want to get away from crazy, as in I'm leaving New York and California because it's too expensive and there's too many mandates and restrictions and my freedom is kind of infringed upon.
Well, DeSantis was the governor, so I mean, you know, people were leaving New York, Pennsylvania, you know, these areas, New Jersey, because of Democratic governors,
but,
right?
You know, people started relocating to Georgia 25, 30 years ago. People moved to Nashville starting 12 or 15 years ago. I was one of them. I think a lot of people just go to the Southeast, whether it's Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Charlotte, North Carolina, or Raleigh. They just want to go to these red states where they're, and this lies the problem. They leave the lunacy for the better spots, but they still vote for the lunacy when they get there.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you, but at the same point, I agree with both of you in many ways. I think all of the above. So you have these population shifts, but they've been supersized during the pandemic, in part because also people could Zoom work. So, I mean, how many times during the pandemic we looked at weather in you know, Nashville or the South or Florida and thought, well, we're Zoom working. Why not just Zoom from a sunny 80-degree place? So part of it, a piece of it is, yes, the weather, but also I think DeSantis is credited with, as with Abbott in Texas, for being more business friendly. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a small business, for example, I think we do see this mass exodus from the East Coast, especially what we've talked about.
Good point with Abbott in Texas. A lot of people are relocating to Austin and the suburbs of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Yeah, true.
So, final vote here. Where was the crowd kind of mum and not behind him on the trashing of DeSantis?
I think it shows two things. And this is a reflection more on society than it is Trump or DeSantis. One, nobody's got an attention span of more than 4 seconds.
That's a good point.
Because if you don't give the zinger right away, people have tuned you out.
Yep.
And two, what you get as far as reaction on social media doesn't always carry over into the real world. Mm-hmm. If you see on social media since like Thursday of last week, the hardcore Trump supporter, they are having this war of words with DeSantis over whether or not he's conservative enough, whether or not he's as Trump calls him, a globalist rhino. Whereas maybe in real life, if Trump's attacking DeSantis, the same people that aren't on Twitter are probably like, why is he going after this guy?
Yeah, but I think I think what Greg is alluding to here is that this is a MAGA crowd.
Yep.
And we've been part of that. I mean, we've seen the MAGA crowds like in the Wildwood, I mean, going crazy. And so hopefully, you know, Trump gets this message that when and I'll bring us back to the conversation that Greg Stocker, he always tells us we're in this bubble, right? We live and breathe news and news events. For Trump, he has been, you know, this is his first big outing, right? His first big rally for his 2024, you know, launch. And especially since, obviously, all of the indictment stuff going on in Manhattan and so on. So for him, is he talking about something that's insider, that's the inside of politics, and it's not going over well? Whereas if he talks to people about the price of eggs or gas or what I'm going to do for you, rather than him talking about what he's been dealing with, which nobody wants to really hear about. Why? Because he's a billionaire and he's living his best life.
Yep.
And so what I think he has to be very careful of is to not go down this rabbit hole of talking about insider politics.
It's funny you say living his best life. I don't know if you guys saw this story, and it's interesting because I don't know what's true and what's not. But I guess Trump recently, as far as last week, hosted a dinner with some of the family members of the January 6th prisoners. And again, take this for what it's worth. I just saw, I have no way of verifying one way or the other, but there's the rumor on the internet is he charged people that came for the dinner. I don't know if that's true or not. That would be incredibly tone deaf. I don't think he would do that.
Well,
I mean, if you're going to host family members for people that are locked up from January 6th, probably shouldn't charge them.
Those dinners at Mar-a-Lago are expensive.
I mean, I have no idea if it's true, but I saw that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
That's not consistent with him.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Because I don't know. I just figured I'd bring it up because
I doubt he charged Mika and Joe, who stayed on his dime when maybe they were married to other people.